game. Charvarius Ward will be out. Jacob Cowing out. Tatum Bethune out. Kevin Givens out. Nick Bosa out. Brock Purdy out. Trent Williams questionable. Feliciano questionable.
Fight or fold. We are here. We are here. It is your boy, the coach. Welcome back to the Coach's Huddle where the field meets family. And we have another installment of the Faithful Review. Fight or fold, baby. This is it. There can't be any more we must win games. There were games where we it was kind of like a must win game, but mathematically we're not in it. I'll let you know exactly when we're going to call games that are going to be must win. You know, when are we going to panic? If there was ever a must win game of the season, it would be now.
Yep.
It would be now for everybody. Your 49ers are, this is a successful season if we just make the playoffs. For your fans that say it's still Super Bowl or bust. For your fans that say we're just waiting on the right time to get all our guys back. It don't matter if Dre Greenlaw comes back if we don't win tomorrow. Right now, next week rather, right now we got a 1-game season. Literally. And don't look now, but that's how the rest of the season is going to bear out. It's going to be 1-game seasons from here on out. If you think about it, if you're ever thinking about the Niners and going to the playoffs, well, guess what? You got your wish. The Niners are in the playoffs. They can't lose. Okay? So I look at my guy right now, the man with the plan, my right-hand man, John Tom Jensen. How you doing, Tom?
Hanging in, Coach. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How have you been, bro? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Rain, though surprisingly, there's blue sky today. First time in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Normally in Seattle in the winter, we hit a period that's called the tunnel. You don't
Mm-hmm.
see the sky. And so today we got some blue sky. So appreciative and thankful for that.
So, hey, man, without further ado, let's just get into it, man. So, we got today's topic Niners' path to Lambeau glory. The San Francisco 49ers are going on the road to face the Green Bay Packers, the 7-3 Green Bay Packers, who are currently the leaders in the NFC wildcard chase, third in their division, which is the NFC
North.
North. And they are coming off a 1-game win streak, a 1-point win over the Chicago Bears. They have a couple of injuries on defense, but how they're made mostly is by their strong offensive line, their deep run routing receivers, and the fact that Jordan Love will turn the ball over, right? So, what do you think the Niners have to do coming into this game, right? So let's just kind of look at just the tail of the tape in this matchup. We're going to be breaking down a must-win game against Green Bay at Lambeau Field, analyzing strengths, weaknesses, and the key steps the 49ers must take to secure a victory. What do you got for me, Tom?
Well, first, the chat saying turn up your volume a little bit. So take
Volume's
care
up.
of, there we go. Um,
Volume's up.
okay,
Sorry
cool.
about that, guys.
Yeah, no worries. To me, the one key in how they can win, cloning. Short of that, forget it. It's going to be tough. It's just, you don't have Purdy, you don't have Bosa. Trent Williams is questionable. He might not go.
Mm-hmm.
That's three of your most important players. It's very tough to win without those guys. And so they have to figure out, how do you get this done? And to me, I think it's going to be, they're going to need to run the ball a lot. They're going to need to stop the run. And they're going to need to force Green Bay into third and long so that they can then pressure Jordan Love into throwing picks. That's how they can win. But it's risky, and it's basically the only path they have. Because with Brandon Allen, you can't really put the game on his shoulders. You can't say, go win it for us. You have to win it in the way that leverages your talent as best you can, and that's running the ball.
Well, right now, if you just look at what the Green Bay does on defense, rushing statistics on defense, they're middle of the pack. Opponents rush per play percentage is 44.7%, ranked 15th in the league. Opponents uh, rushing yards, they give up 4.4 yards per rushing attempt, which is 15th in the league. They're just middle of the pack. The rushing attempts that they see per game is around 27 rushes, along with natural rushes from a running back as well as scrambles from the quarterback, 16th in the league. Opponents rushing yards per game, they give up 119 yards a game at 14th in the league. And the rushing TDs, they give up just one, which is 16th in the league. I mean, God, they're dead set in the middle of the run game. I mean, which is kind of frustrating from a standpoint of they're really not telling us how good they are, how bad they are, right? And you just look at our rushing statistics on offense. One might say that this is going to be kind of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. Like we've got to definitely dedicate ourselves to the run game against these guys. Um, what do you think about that? As far as how do you think we'll fare against their run game, just defensively?
Well, they're not dominant defensively. They can be pushed around if your offensive line has a good day. So
Hmm.
for the Niners, I look to establish the run and use everybody. This can't be a Christian McCaffrey game, especially considering that you're playing in Green Bay. Yeah.
Hmm.
Fortunately, it's not going to be snowing. It's supposed to be 45, dry, not that windy. Best the Niners could hope for. But in those conditions, it's still hard to play where you're dealing with that much cold. You can be at a greater injury risk. So the Niners need to be pretty careful with McCaffrey in this game. And they need
Right.
to give Jordan Mason the ball more. But you also need to get the tough yards. You need the guys that are going to get there and after contact get good yardage. Mason can do that. Garendo can give you some speed. McCaffrey is still trying to get into game shape. He's not there yet.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that just their ranks, their rank on PFF is definitely not emblematic of their record. They're 22nd overall on PFF, tied for 18th on offense, 23rd on defense, and 28th on special teams. That's still worse than us on special teams, by the way. I mean, that's still better than us on special teams, by the
That's
way.
how bad we are there.
That's
Yeah.
how bad we are. Yeah. Um, just looking at the injuries that we just went over, I started out the opening. I started the cold open with Kyle talking about the injuries that we have to face coming into today. Trent's going to be a game time decision. Nick Bosa is likely out. We already just got news that Brock Purdy is out. We're going to get into the Brandon Allen topic later. But what do you think the approach is from Kyle? Do you think that they go guns blazing? In my opinion, I'll tell you, I think that this is going to be one of the best games that you'll see called from Kyle. I think he's got no pressure on him. He's got a quarterback that he believes in. Kyle is one of those guys where that he loves to prove that a quarterback who maybe has you know, lesser skill or maybe just an unheralded guy, Kyle loves to be able to show what he can do in the offense with a quarterback like Brandon Allen. I think you're going to see everything that we have been wanting to see all season. You're going to see Jordan Mason play. You're going to see dual running backs on the field. You're going to see screens and you're going to see middle screens from George Kittle. You're going to see a lot of innovative things on the ground. I just think that when Kyle has no pressure, we see the best games out of him. I just think that there's a lot of injuries coming into this game. The final guy dropping right now with Brock Purdy not being able to go for Green Bay. I just believe that Kyle is really going to call the game of the season, right? And that's not saying much, right? Because he's had some games that, he's had some dips in the season, but I think that this will be his best called game coming into the Green Bay game. And I'm not going to take your line because I said this to you, and there's a reason why I think this, and that's because,
Go ahead.
oh, he's going to do that because he has to. Right? Remember we talked about
Yeah.
this take.
Yeah.
I told you about this take earlier
Yeah.
today, and you
He's
said,
he's cornered.
yes. You say, Coach, I agree with you because he has no choice. He
Right.
finally has to use everything that's in the tool belt. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
I think that's true, provided that Allen has enough time. If Trent can't play, what what kind of time does Allen have to throw? And remember that Allen doesn't have Brock's speed or mobility, and that he's vulnerable to sacks. So is Kyle going to have to curtail what he wants to do because Allen's going to have to get the ball out on passes? We have to remember that's not Brock anymore. That's a
Hmm.
guy that gets sacked. The last time Brandon Allen played and started, he had 4 sacks. This season in the preseason, he sacked 3 times in 3 games. So you have to worry about that. Plus, if you don't have Trent, it's even more vulnerable. So I think that what we're going to see from Kyle is a lot of versatility in the run game, that he's going to pull out every stop there.
Mm.
But in the pass game, it's going to depend on what can Brandon Allen actually do, knowing that he can't escape and that he's far more vulnerable to being sacked than Purdy.
What do you think Brandon Allen has over Brock Purdy as far as attributes are concerned? I know we're losing a lot in, he's not a starter. So let's just put that out full
Yeah,
stop. There's no action. The biggest comparison between Brock Purdy and Brandon Allen is that Brock Purdy is a starting quarterback in the NFL and Brandon Allen isn't. So let's start there. I don't want
yeah,
any of
yeah.
this to get clipped up like, man, did you hear what the hell Coach and Tom was talking about? But but
No, no, we're
yeah,
not
we're
gonna
not
do that.
trying to go there. But what I am saying is, what can Kyle build off of with Brandon Allen's skill set that could be a wrinkle that most teams haven't seen from us for 10 games, for 10 weeks? What can he show?
In theory, accuracy. That Allen, when he's on, can be an accurate thrower, but
Right.
he's not always on.
True.
So in the preseason, he had a 5 for 7 game. He had a 7 for 10 game, but
Hmm.
he also had a 7 for 13 game.
Right.
So he can he can dial in, and when he does, he can be an accurate thrower, and that can help them. But they're going to have to lean into helping him as much as possible. So I think that the run pass balance in this game is going to favor the run pretty heavily because, again, Kyle won't have a choice.
Yeah. I tend to believe that Brandon Allen's deep ball accuracy is something that has kind of shined through when he does get the chance. I think that Kyle will try to take some shots with Brandon Allen in Sunday afternoon. I can see that. Also, I think that Kyle loves to really get to the sticks, and what I mean is like outside the numbers. Um, he loves those routes, right? And I think Brandon Allen does do a good job at getting the ball out to the sideline at a better clip than Brock, right? It's just little things that he
Yeah,
does. Now, also, Brandon Allen is nowhere as mobile and as athletic as Brock. He can't keep a play alive. That's why I tend to believe that Trent Williams will go. I think he'll go. If Trent Williams doesn't go with Brandon Allen, like, come on, man, that's not even a game. That's
yeah,
not even a
yeah. Well,
game.
it's waving the white flag at when you have the coin toss.
Yeah, Trent
If
Williams got to
Trent
go.
doesn't play, Trent has to go. But let's remember that Trent's not going to be anywhere close to 100%.
True.
But but fortunately, Green Bay doesn't have a lot of talent on the edges, so Trent
I
can
was
hold
about to
his own.
say, I will take Trent against who's this dude's name? Kingsley and Enagbar?
And Igbare,
Enagbare. Yeah, I'll take Trent against Kingsley and Enagbare with like an okay ankle. He's got
yeah,
a 57.9 pass rush grade on PFF. I'm sorry. I mean,
yeah, yeah. They don't have elite talent on the edges, and
yeah,
that's
Trent's
really
blocking
going to
that getting
help.
out of bed. And they just traded Preston Smith, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that going into this game, I think Trent will play. Uh Brandon Allen's gonna throw a lot of balls to the sticks. Pause, no Diddy. I think that defensively, the name of the game, honestly, is Josh Jacobs against our defense. I think that's really gonna be all she wrote. If Josh Jacobs has a day against us, it doesn't matter what we do on offense. They're going to be able to
agreed.
control the
Yeah,
clock. They're going to be able to constrict the game and put our offense in deep water where we don't want to be. Right. So
right. And
it,
that's going to be Lafleur's game plan is a heavy dose of Josh Jacobs.
yeah. I also believe that Jordan Love is going to throw a pick.
Probably.
I got
But
Jordan Love throwing a pick, Tom.
but what the Niners need to do is to stop Josh Jacobs enough so that they get into a third and long passing situation so that Sorensen can dial up a blitz. You don't
Okay.
have Bosa. They're going to have to generate pressure somehow, and they're going to have to generate passing situations where they can blitz from. And so
Awesome.
if Green Bay is that consistent in running Josh Jacobs, then that's going to be a problem. Third in the league in running, 838 yards for the season. Last 4 games, he's averaged 5.5 yards per carry. He's playing really well. So is their offensive line's talented group. So the Niners are going to have to find a way to fill in order to get those run stops. They're going to need big games from everybody, especially in the back seven, in order to stop Jacobs.
Agreed. Agreed. Moving into our next topic, let's just go ahead and get into the Brock Purdy situation. So we already know, hey, Brandon Allen is stepping in for this game against the Green Bay Packers. Brock Purdy is out, per Kyle Shanahan. But there's some comments that uh, Brandon Allen had about what he's learned from Brock Purdy. Also, Brandon Allen's take on the Packers defense. So let's just go ahead and listen to a couple of comments from Brandon Allen, and also just some short commentary on how Kyle feels about Brandon Allen coming into this game next Sunday. So here we go.
I
Sorry
think
about
our
that.
our
Here we go.
You don't want Brock to have an injury, but I mean, are you excited about this?
yeah, it's an opportunity, and the circumstances are what they are, but I think our team all year long we've been kind of dealing with injuries here and there, and it's been a big next man up mentality. So it's definitely an opportunity for me to go out and play well and put our guys in a good position to win the game, and um, obviously we want Brock back and healthy and all that, but for the time being, it is an opportunity for me.
Is there been anything you've been able to take away from Brock as far as the way he prepares that helps you? I know you work behind Burrow, but
Mhm.
I know Darnold cited Brock's preparation
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, no, he's unbelievable the way he prepares, and you kind of have to be able to execute this offense well. There's a lot of motions, a lot of shifts, a lot of things that go into it, and to be on top of all that, and you've seen him on the road doing all that with silent cadence and all that. So there's a lot that goes into it, and his preparation, um, kind of was when I first got here last year, watching him do it, I was like, okay, this is kind of how you have to study here, because you can go other places and offenses aren't as complex, aren't as difficult. So you can still study, but you're looking at the same things week to week. But um, in this offense, we really do a good job moving guys around and getting guys open. So there's a lot of studying that goes into it. So watching him prepare and the way he does, I've definitely tried to model my preparation after him.
Brandon, this defense is taking the ball away at a really high rate. What do they look like on film to you?
Yeah, solid defense. Obviously, they're the defense is the key part why they have a pretty good record, and they do a great job of forcing turnovers. So it'll be our job to protect the ball, keep it in our guys' hands, and that's really throughout the NFL. That's a big key to winning games is protecting the football.
Will Brandon Allen start?
These are Kyle's comments on Brandon Allen, and then we're done.
Will Brandon Allen start?
Yes.
What do you like about Brandon?
I think Brandon's a really good thrower, runs our offense well. He's done a really good job since he's been here. Been here 2 years now, and guys believe in him, and believe he'll give us a good chance to win.
Well, it's one of the positives about Brandon that the offense doesn't change very much with him in there. That he's like Purdy in a lot of ways. That you don't really skip a beat.
Yeah, there's not a big game plan adjustment. It wasn't. This is something that we didn't think would happen early in the week, so we were fully preparing for Brock to go, and getting a little surprised about this on yesterday. Nothing has to change, so that's a good deal for us.
So
Injuries.
what do you think, man? So moving into this, Brock Purdy so far through 10 games, he's thrown for 2,600 yards, 2,613 yards, a 66 completion rate with 13 TDs and 8 interceptions. Uh, what are we missing from Brock coming into this game, right? What can we expect uh not only from just the game, right? Cuz I feel like we kind of touched into that a little bit in the last topic, right? Not just what can we see from an offensive standpoint, but how do you think Kyle is going to call the game? What are the implications if we lose this game, right?
Well,
Do
if
you feel
if we lose, the season's over. Yeah,
well, we
all
know
the
that.
all the
But
tiebreakers are gone.
okay, well, we know that, but what I mean for that is, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, all right, we lost the game. The true mark of these guys have been calling them, these guys have been moving like champions for a couple of years, right? They have a championship mindset. We have a championship fan base that we push for Super Bowls, right? There's definitely that standard here. I know this kind of sounds, a little like Boy Scoutish a little bit, but the true mark of a champion is how you lose, right? And for lack of we don't lose well, right? We don't lose well. There's finger pointing, there's evasion, there's not a lot of explaining. We just kind of move on to the next. There's no closure. In some instances, I feel like they haven't even had closure from the Super Bowl. Um,
Probably
but
not.
what are you looking for out of this team, out of this regime, if we do lose? How do they close out the season with class? How do they are we going to start seeing guys not playing hard next week, right? In Buffalo because it's over? You know what I mean? Like how are they going to
Yeah,
do, it's
I
easy to
don't see
push
this team quitting. I don't think that's in
right.
them because they compete. But this year they've competed, but at times it hasn't been with urgency. It feels like going through the motions in some of these games. And
Mhm.
that might be the case to close out the year later. But for now, I would expect them to compete, to try their best, see what they can do. What would I look for from them? Learning. And that's one thing that they don't do from losses is learn. They
Mhm.
don't learn and adjust well. And that applies to Kyle, that applies to the coaching staff, applies to the team. That's what I want to see is improved execution over the course of the season by learning what you do and don't do well and hitting a rhythm by the time you finish the season out so that you've got something to build upon.
Mhm.
I want to see a focus on process and execution and counting on them to have a level of professionalism and pride, which I think they've shown and expect to see from them close out the year.
Yeah. I'd look for them to really get into the transition phase, right? If we lose tomorrow, rip the band-aid off, right?
Oh
Uh
yeah. Yeah.
true
Play the young
competition
guys.
exactly. True competition across the board, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason to keep older guys on the field just to save face. It's time to reevaluate. It's time to make some hard decisions. And I'd like to see them get to the business of kind of reestablishing the base, right? Let's be honest here. I don't care if we lose every game for the rest of the season. Kyle Shanahan will be the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers in the 2025 season. That's a fact. All right.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
done enough. So let's be pragmatic. He's
They're
he's
not going
done
to fire him
enough.
after two Super Bowls and four NFC championships.
They're not going to do that.
Plus,
Nobody would do that.
he's made them a ton of money in home playoff games.
Exactly.
So
So,
they're not going to let him go.
but could we see a change in could we see a pivot, right? Could we see, hey, for the rest of the season, we do get a running back by committee, right? We do see Jacob Cowing starting to get utilized in packages, right? Taking over the Ray McLeod role, if you will, right? Maybe we see maybe we see Debo Samuel's role getting diminished. I think that I'm not here to dump on Debo, but he's taken a severe step back. He's
Yeah.
not the same player.
No.
And at this stage, I feel like what he's giving us on the field, if there's somebody that can do it, that can give us a different wrinkle of his skill set, I'm willing to look at it. All of that is on the table. Like all of that stuff sounds crazy when we're 5-5 and excuse me, when we're 5-5 but we still got a shot. But 5-6 going into week 12, it's time to really get to the business of football.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time to move on from Kyle Juszczyk. It's time to move on from Deebo Samuel. It's time to start investing seriously in the offensive line. Jake Brendel should not see another year here. Come on, man.
No.
Like,
No.
enough is enough, right? I
No.
don't.
Are
Go
you
ahead.
going to be a contender or not?
Yeah.
If you're a contender, Jake Brendel is not your starting center the way he's played this year. They need to
Right.
move.
Yeah.
But so this is our Shanahan topic. I'm sorry, is that I had some other stuff prepared on Kyle.
No. We're going in on the Shanahan seasons on the line coming up.
Oh, okay. So for this, I would think that I agree with you. They have to
Well, this is a hell of a
identify.
segue. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh, but let's still just identify the key is that they have to identify who are the pieces going forward and invest in them, and get that group to continuity so they're ready to go next year.
Agreed. All right, so let's get into the next topic because I'm gonna let you have the floor, brother, because I feel like I stepped on your toes a little bit.
Oh no,
So
I'm good. I just saw
Shannon,
that Shanahan's season on the line was in the light green, so I thought that. Anyway,
no,
we're there now. We're there now.
yeah,
That's the important thing. All right,
exactly.
so
Shanahan
let's.
season's on the line. Shanahan season's on the line. Sorry about that.
Oh,
Shanahan
no
season's
worries. Go
on the
ahead.
line. Uh, let's get into it. Kyle Shanahan is under scrutiny for his decisions this season. We examine his mistakes, whether he can adapt in time, and what this means for his future with the team. Now, let me get into it a little bit. I got a little bit of a video that's gotten a little bit of traction uh, from the game that we just had, and I was truly upset in that moment, and
Yeah, I loved it.
I let Kyle have it. And there's some of it where I do watch it now and I'm like, you're a maniac.
You
Like,
were
what do
in
you
it.
do?
You were in it.
But, but
but
my thing
it,
is
it's
that
your
I
truth.
don't I don't I'm not I don't get frustrated with the performance, the coaching performance of Kyle, not because I don't think he can do it or I think that he's a fraud, right? As if like he's got everybody fooled. But it frustrates me how he just doesn't utilize things that are just so readily accessible, right? Game management, you know, playing more players in the backfield, utilizing Christian McCaffrey in the passing game more than in the interior run game, going for it or like understanding like Kyle, you do not have to win the play. Try to win the game, right? And I feel as though that when there are when fans and coaches and very smart people come to the defense of Kyle, it's always in a vacuum, right? It's let's look at this play. Let's get to the brass tacks of it all. But what they never want to do is take that snapshot and widen out the perspective and the context of what that play represented, right? Anybody can look at a play that broke down and talk about who was open and why it didn't work. Anybody can, right? But is it right to run that play there, right? There was a comment that I wrote on that I commented on with Johnny Dales. I love Johnny Dales. I'm a huge fan of his work. But there was a tweet where he took umbrage with people being upset that Kyle wasn't running Jordan Mason in the last drive where I believe we went 3 plays for 1 minute and 21 seconds. It was after the turnover on downs that
Yeah.
we had gotten versus Seattle. And my response to him was saying, no, I guess like his tweet was saying, hey, you don't put Trung candidate on the field when you have like Terrell Davis or Marshall Falk. When you have Marshall Falk, who's the offensive player of the year, you don't put in basically likening Jordan Jordan Mason to Trung candidate. And I had to stop and say, first of all, Jordan Mason is not Trung candidate.
No.
Okay. That's not one. But who would be on the field? The Lions would take Jahmyr Gibbs off the field and put
Yeah.
Montgomery on the field. That's what they would do because
Right.
they would understand the context, right? Of what's happening right now. It's not about what you can prove. It's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove. It ain't about the play that you thought that could work or how you couldn't get to it because a certain guy missed his block. There's certain things that are just certain things that should be ruled out of the playbook just off of security alone. Like, hey, we're not going five wide in the back of our own end zone. We're not doing that. We're just not, right? We're running the ball here, right? You guys need to strap in and run the ball. Jordan Mason is getting on the field right now, and this is what we're going to do. I just think that in certain instances, I think that I think he's gotten a little bit comfortable with just the embarrassment of riches that we've had on this team and by way of talent. And, you know, he doesn't know how to be economic with this offense. It's been a long time since he's had an offense with limitations. And I feel like we're seeing that a lot week in and week out.
Yeah. He got used to having this much talent. He got used to winning one way.
Yeah.
That's the danger. What you're asking is the question. It's the decision making is what matters, not the specifics of the play execution, the decision itself and the context of that in game management. So to bring that up, Josh Dubow of AP posted this week, Shanahan in games won by 7 points or less has a career winning percentage of 396, under 40%.
Hmm.
Take the coaches throughout history that have coached at least 40 of those one score games. Kyle ranks 118th out of 125. Historically terrible. Okay, so why? Because as you point out, Kyle's primary goal is to win the play, not the game. He focuses on winning the battle, not the war, because he wants to win as an offensive coordinator. He wants to win his way. He wants the kill shot. He doesn't want to kill clock. He wants the kill shot so that he can then kill clock.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. You have to be a head coach in that moment. Kyle is an offensive coordinator, which is why he's 396 career in close games. It's a function of who he is. That's how he's wired. And Shanahan said that they played 4 games this year that went down to the last 2 possessions, and they only won 1, and that's why they're 5-5 instead of 8-2. He said that a lot this week. So let's go through them. Rams, 50-yard pass to Tutu Atwell. No pressure from the D-line. Atwell runs past Javarius Ward, who Fungus late with help. None of that's fixable. You don't have depth on the defensive line. You're not going to get the pressure you need in the fourth quarter. It's why the defense falls apart late.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that they punch it in after that 50-yard throw. Mm-hmm. Then you get to the Kyle factor. The Niners get the ball, tie game. What happens? 5 pass calls. No runs. They hold the ball for a minute 9, punt it away. Rams take the ball on the punt return to the 50. Devondre Campbell has 25-yard pass interference, kick a field goal, they win. So it gets back to Kyle of he's always trying to win the play, not the game. That's the key. Arizona, Niners go scoreless in the second half. And that game, I think you can pin to Jordan Mason. He fumbled on the penultimate possession,
the 8-yard line or something.
and then he completely whiffed on his pass pro assignment. Unblocked pass rusher comes in on a blitz, destroys Brock. He throws a duck, picked, game over.
Mm-hmm.
So that one you could put on Mason. Tampa, they finally get the win. Why? Because Tampa's bottom 3 in the league in pass yardage against and yak against. That's why the Niners had over 170 yards in yak. That's exactly what Tampa does poorly. It's why the Niners won, because the defense can't stop Kyle taking his kill shots. That's why they win that game. Seattle, what you were talking about. They get the ball back after turning on downs. McCaffrey gets a run for first. Then on the next first down, McCaffrey stopped for a 1-yard loss because Seattle had 9 guys in the box. Kyle sees that and says, okay, I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to call play action pass. He goes with the play action pass. Brock sails it over Debo's head. Clock stops, and most importantly, Seattle doesn't have to use a timeout. They otherwise would have. Mm-hmm. And so now you punt the ball back. They throw a check down on third that doesn't go. They punt. Seattle goes the other way. Again, it goes back to, in these games that Kyle cites, 2 of the 4 losses were because Kyle went for kill shot over killing clock. And he's never going to change because his mindset is, I must win the play. He's not willing to say, The defense has stacked the box, but I'm still going to run so that I kill clock and force them to use a timeout. Kyle refuses to do that because he's so caught up in winning the play. He's fighting the battle and losing the war. That's what's going on. So that's the
I
problem. That's not going to change. That's who Kyle is.
I agree with you 100%. Also, I feel as though that the delta between Kyle's mistakes and what we see on the field is a lot shorter in years past. When you have as much talent as you have, when you have this has been going on for years. When you have this much talent, you can kind of play the game. You can call plays like it's a video game. A lot of stuff gets covered up and process, and plays that don't work get covered up when Kyle Shanahan himself called CMC his blankie. I'm glad that he's back, checking the ball down to him, being able to have that type of player out in space. A lot of mismatches and matchup football, but not necessarily process of being able to have 11 dogs on the field that are going to play hat on the hat and we're going to win. It's always about baking off of somebody else's mistakes. And when you're trying to win a game and the decisions get as tight as they do down the stretch, you got to have your wits about you. One thing that I don't understand is that when is he going to get out of offensive coordinator mode in tough games? I feel like it's his security blanket, right? Where he doesn't want to feel the game. I just want to call the play because that's what I know. If I put the right play out there, then I can always win, live or die off the execution of that play. And I have a viable reason as to why it worked or why it did not work. But at the same time, I don't understand when he doesn't get the self-awareness portion of the game where it's like, yo, my man, we're up. Hold the ball. Right now, we should be running the ball on first down, period. Second down, period. If we don't lose yardage on third, all right, if we're still at 3rd and 10, run the ball on 3rd and 10. It is imperative that at the very least, we take clock off the field, and at best, we get their timeouts off of them. Part of the thing that I don't like is that there's been a narrative that's been wrapped around our defense as, if you look at the Niners late in games, the defense is folding in big moments. Man, I beg to differ, bro. The defense always starts fast. They always give us opportunities early. Turnovers, picks, sacks, turnovers on downs, and even coming out of this half, pick, right? Turnover on downs. It's like we don't reward our defense. We only use them as a vestige just to get us the ball back. I just don't think that Kyle looks at it from the standpoint of we have a lot of good players individually on our defense, right? They do play well together when they are fresh. But as the game goes on, if we allow teams to be able to utilize their full playbook because the game is still close, then you're going to wear our defense down. This year, our team, I think the biggest blind spot that Kyle has is him not realizing that he's got to protect his defense this year, not the other way around. In years past, even when we were at our best on offense, our defense was always better than us, even at our best on offense. And we just don't have this all world defense that's going to just completely blanket teams off the field anymore. We have a defense where, guys, gas is going to run out. We're going to be on fumes, right? And on top of the fact that we're missing Mooney Ward, we're missing like big starters. I just don't
And
understand.
and
Like,
Greenlaw.
yeah, come on, we can't blitz all game. You know why? We don't got enough dogs to do it. We
No.
can't blitz all game,
But we
right?
have to blitz more, and we're going to have to blitz a lot in this Green Bay game because there's no Bosa.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to have to generate some type of pressure on Jordan Love. We can't just traditionally get back there with the four that we have. So
No, no.
my big, I just want him to
Really
just
well said, Coach.
thank you. I just
Really
would
well
like
said.
him to understand that, look, man, you've got to protect the defense with the offense now, not the other way around, right? It I almost would I feel as though that one of Kyle's coaching points should be, hey guys, I want no less than a 5-minute drive for the first script. We got to get 5 to 6 minutes off the clock. All right. Whether or not defense is on first or we're on first, the first thing we got to do is we know that we're a different team if we don't get out of here quick. We got to get this clock running. And throwing the ball as much as he does in those moments just doesn't help us in those moments. Have a little
No.
self-awareness.
Well, and the defense is tired at the end of the game because of the lack of depth in the D line.
Yeah.
A wide nine is predicated on having that depth so that you could bring consistent pressure. The Niners in the past had that depth, had that D line pressure in the fourth, and that's how the defense could close games out. And Kyle is still coaching as if that's still true. It's not. Then the other problem is, as I cited in the Rams game, 5 passes, no runs with the game on the line, tie ball game. Minute 9 off the clock. Seattle, minute 21 off the clock by throwing too many passes and not forcing them to call all their timeouts. That's just being blissfully unaware of the need for complementary football to help your defense.
Yeah.
And that's because Kyle Shanahan is an offensive coordinator. He doesn't think like a head coach. A head coach would know, I have to run to protect my defense. Kyle is thinking, how do I win this play? And if that's your mindset, that's why you could sometimes win the battle, but you'll always lose the war, or most of the time. It's why Kyle only wins 40% of one score games, because he's an offensive coordinator when he has to be a head coach. That's the core of the problem. And then, as you point out, Kyle's accustomed to having all this talent. They age, they're hurt. Now you don't have it. Kyle's accustomed to the defensive line closing. They don't have it either. So what do you got? You can't coach the game the same way, but he did. And they lost. I mean, that's how they lost to the Rams. It's how they lost to Seattle. It's on Kyle for not calling complimentary football. And part of this is, well, why doesn't Kyle change? He never will. It's who he is. This is just, it's part of his DNA. And there's a problem with Kyle in that there's all this baggage where it's just, well, Kyle's not going to change. You just have to put up with the baggage. And that baggage adds up when you don't have a great team anymore. And that baggage can cause you to lose games where in the past it didn't. And that's where this stuff comes up. Kyle with poor game management and clock management, special teams killing you, and now it loses games. Before it didn't because you had the talent, you had the lead, you had a big lead. Now you don't. And so part of this Kyle baggage, win the battle, not the war, kill shots, not kill clock. Here's my list. Preset quarterback options, no audibles at the line. Playing favorites on targets and carries. Wide 9 because that's what gave him trouble as an offensive coordinator. Treating the right of Trent on the offensive line as a cap saving center. Overdrafting weapons, underdrafting offensive linemen, doubling down on veterans. All of those are things Kyle's never going to change. All those things are things you have to put up with Kyle. When you contend, you're fine. You're saying, okay, well, that's Kyle, but we're winning. When you're losing, those things add up, especially the game management, because that's 2 of their losses this year. They have to adjust. Kyle has to adjust, but Kyle won't. Kyle's Kyle.
Hey, before we get out of here with this topic, one last thing. Over under on Robert Saleh's impact versus Kyle being as though that he's in the building with Green Bay. How much is the Robert Saleh effect gonna
I don't think much because LaFleur already knows what Kyle likes to do. How much is
True.
LaFleur really learning from Saleh that he doesn't already know?
Respect? I like it. Okay, man. Moving into the next topic, buds. And this is kind of a fun topic. Debo's role, time to step up. I should have said time to lock in. You know, I'll be with the bullshit. Look, here we go. With the team facing adversity, can Samuel, sorry. I put an S on the back of his name because I do it all the time, and then Tio started doing it, so I felt really good about it. But with the team facing adversity, can Debo Samuel elevate his game to carry the offense, exploring how his versatility could be the key to win against the Packers? So look, hey, what we got to do is we got to get into it. We all heard it. T.O. had some comments to kind of fire on Debo Samuel. Let's go.
He's right now is a focal point. Obviously, they got Kittles. Again, I hear he's been battling injuries here and there. Debo is not really playing up to Debo standards. Debo is seems like he's more focused on his pregame attire than he is actually the game. So again, if we can shift that focus, maybe that can energize and create some more production, from an offensive standpoint. I'm just kind of tongue in cheek with that, but again, Juwan Jennings, like I said, to your point, dynamic player. Like I said, the only thing I think he lacks is, like I said, is that game changing ability. Yeah, he's a playmaker, go up, make plays, but he can only do so much. He needs somebody else to complement what he's doing from an offensive standpoint. Like I said, the running game has to come along the way as well. So I'm sure the more games that Christian gets back on the field, he can get back in there and get back to himself, then you'll probably see that offensive firepower that everybody's expecting as the season wears on.
Hey, man. Hey, I see you, T.O. I see you, T.O. Tom, give me your comments, man. How do you feel about that, man?
Spot on. T.O. just nails it. He's just, look.
T.O. said,
play,
hey, man, I'm taking
play.
shots, boy.
Yeah. He's just going after him. And Debo's earned it. Debo has had a poor year by his standards, by the team standards,
right?
By Kyle's expectations. Debo has taken a big step back. He's lost speed, acceleration, his elusiveness. He's not the same player. And without that, what can Debo fall back on? That's part of the problem with Debo, is that he's kind of a one-trick pony, is that he's the yak guy. When he no longer has the yak, what else do you get from him? He's not a great route runner. He doesn't have great hands. So how else can you utilize Debo? He's inherently limited. That's the problem.
My biggest issue with Debo is that he's just not a hard worker. I and I hate to say that, because that's something that is not even close to the best version of him, right? He's all effort, big yak guy, physical, right? Definitely going to get in the open field and be a problem with DBs and linebackers. Like, I mean, Debo, the way he paced us through at running back, right? Taking all those carries at running back. I mean, Debo's done a lot for this team. So I want to start there. But hey, man, time don't wait for nobody. And I'll tell you this right now. He's not the same player. And I think that, the self-awareness right now is that I feel like the persona's getting a little bit bigger than the production, if I'm being fair right now. And right now, I'd like to I'm hearing that my mic is low. Is my mic low? Yeah. All right. So
Phil
right
says
now,
turn it up low.
Yeah, I just turned it up. So right now, Debo's a leader. What are the things that you see out of Debo this season that he can just improve on? I understand, he's struggling on man-on coverage, getting open, separation. Like, that's something that he's definitely struggling on. Broken tackles is way down from where he's been before. But how can he turn it around? What are some of the things that you see that Debo's been doing this season, from week to week, that you just like to see more of or less of, right? What can we do to just salvage what we have thus far?
Well, first you have to stop doing what Debo can't do anymore.
Right.
So the jet sweeps, those need to go to Cowing, not Debo, or Garendo.
Right.
Those plays will work better if you've got pure speed out there. So that's the first thing, is take away what Debo doesn't do well so that he can focus on what he does.
Right.
Slants, the horizontal game, put him in space. Let Debo go to work and just see that if he can use his physicality to break some tackles once he's got a head of steam. But you have to set him up to succeed. Right now, Kyle is calling plays as if it's 2023 or even 2021. You can't do that. Running plays for Debo is just not going to work anymore. He's too slow.
Yeah, the end around.
So that's the main change, is just take away what he can't do. That's job one.
Okay, so this is a great question. Name what he does well. This is hard. What has Debo done this season where you say, all right, he's an asset? We still need this on the field. Because this is why I started floating this about finding other guys to put on the field. Because I'm asking, what production do we get out of Debo? You know, like
Well,
it. Go ahead.
we had that one play where he had the 60-yard touchdown called back because of a penalty.
True.
In that play, Debo's open in space, turns, pivots, and now he can be a bulldozer. To me, that's how you need to use Debo. Set him up in space where he can build up and run and plow people. I think he can still do that. He can still bring that physicality. But the other plays where it's jet sweeps, jet screens, or just trying to get Debo to use his speed to separate, he doesn't have that separation gear anymore. But you've got other players on your team who do. Give them that opportunity. Kyle has to adjust.
Yeah, I think that how Kyle is using Debo doesn't really serve him well at this phase of his career.
Right.
You see what he's doing through the air just through receiving. He's got that long run for 76 yards, but right now he's averaging 3.7 receptions a game for 54 yards a game. His catch percentage is 54%. No, his catch percent. I'm sorry, his catch percentage is 63.5%
It's
per
still
game.
bad.
It's still bad. And his touches from scrimmage, he ranks second on the team behind Jordan Mason with 60 touches, overall from scrimmage since the season has started. So outside of
That's the
Jordan
issue.
Mason, which is a literal running back, he's getting his lion's share of reps.
And that's on Kyle. Debo hasn't earned those reps.
No, he
And
hasn't.
what's his production off of those reps? It's terrible.
Right.
So why are you doing this? What's to be gained on jet sweeps for Debo when he's this slow? You know the play isn't going to work. If you ran the same play for Cowing, where does he go? A lot
Right.
further than Debo. You run it for Garendo, same thing. Kyle has to adjust, and that's the frustration. Is not just the game management, but not using the players who can best leverage that play call.
Yeah. Um, I think I just thought, for what it is. I mean, and T.O. even said it. It's tongue in cheek, right? What he had to say
Sort
was
of.
funny.
But he
Yeah,
still means it, though.
he struck a nerve. He did. He
Yeah.
definitely, like, hey, a hit dog gonna holler. Like Debo
Right.
definitely responded. I will say that moving forward, uh, Debo at 28 years old, 9 games played, 9 games started. He's only rushed for 79 yards this season off of 27 attempts.
Come on.
It's just not there, man. His success percentage for running the ball, he's at 40.7%. The longest run he's had this year is 12 yards. He's averaging 2.9 yards a rush. It's yeah,
Ouch. Ouch. I didn't know it was that bad. And
2.9
so
yards a
this
rush,
goes back
man.
to what we were talking about earlier that Kyle doesn't learn.
Yeah.
You have to look at the tape, you have to look at the stats and say, why am I still calling this for Debo? Is it because he's my buddy or because it works?
Yeah, all of his like explosive package plays, the end arounds, the slip screens, the now routes, the wheel route is still good, but outside of that, I don't see any separation. I don't see Debo coming
No.
down. There used to be a
No.
time where Debo coming down on the end around, it's like, dude, watch out. Like, even if they don't block it right, he's not getting tackled by the first guy.
Right.
That step in that burst is completely gone. But
Debo
go ahead.
used to put fear in a defense. He no longer does.
I don't think our offense has teeth anymore. Maybe our team for that matter. Uh, I don't
How it's
necessarily.
used anyway. I think we could get teeth back. Look at Jordan Mason earlier in the year.
Right. Yeah. So let's get into our last one for the game. I mean, for the show. Slow starts or weak finishes. So right now, uh, the 49ers are under fire. Does the offense's sluggish starts or the defense's inability to close games bear more blame? Uh, Breaking down the root of the team struggles. So I wanted to get into this because again, uh, there's been a lot of talk about the defense's late, late collapses in games. I wanted to touch on a couple of stats for this topic. The 49ers defense is statistically one of the best in the NFL this season, but a closer look reveals that it may be the key contributor to their late game collapses. Right now in the fourth quarter for points allowed, last year in 2023, they were 3.7 points allowed in the fourth quarter, which ranked first. This year they're 27th with 8.8 points allowed in the 2024 season. If you look at their defense's EPA through the first and third quarter of this season, they rank 5th in the NFL. Their defensive EPA in the fourth quarter this season ranks 28th. Right now, there's people saying that the difference between the 49ers being 5-5 and 8-2 comes down to a handful of plays and possessions. If you examine the data and the tape is clear, many people are trying to say that the defense is worst when it matters most, and that arguably is the biggest factor in this year's struggles. I tend to disagree with this. I
Yep.
don't think that the defense having issues late in games is is emblematic of why we've been losing these games, especially the close divisional matchup games that we've
Yeah.
lost late. You've just highlighted it. My biggest thing is just the offense, the lack of game management, self-awareness and understanding the context of where we are in the game at the moment, being able to bleed clock, being able to run the ball consistently. That's not a defense thing, right? How can you talk about the defense? You know, we played the game against the Chiefs. The defense did their level best before the Chiefs finally turned it on at the end and took it over. You know, it's not a matter of if with a team like the Chiefs, it's when. You know, you look at the Seattle game. Look, Seattle's average for this season, they averaged 24 points a game. All right. We held them to 20 points a game. We did our job defensively, right? The problem is that the league average that they give up is 23 points a game, and we only put up 20 points, right? Off of a pick from the defense, turnovers on downs and fumbles. Like, so my thing is that every game that I've watched this season, which is all of them, with the exception of some of the teams like the Chiefs, we face teams and play them exceptionally well early on defense. We do a really good job. We just don't have the consistency to play at a certain tempo for the entire game. Nick Bosa's snaps are up, right? He's up to 80% of the game played when he was only averaging maybe 60% of the snaps in years before. And we've seen what comes out on the other end of it. Multiple injuries, right? We lost Javon Hargraves for the year, right? We've had Mooney Ward is out with some personal things, but we've had a revolving door at safety. Malik Mustafa has been a game time decision for the past couple of weeks. So I'm saying all of this to say that our defense is just, I feel like when people say our offense hasn't been good, they're asking for competency of what you have on what you have on the team, like what you should be doing, expectation. I feel as though when the defense isn't doing good, we expect them to be the best defense in the NFL, right? Because I just feel like the standard for what we expect in Niners defense versus what we expect out of Niners offense is skewed because our defense has been so elite. But offensively, we don't ever protect our defense. We don't ever hold the ball, try to run out clock, try to understand, hey, they just got a turnover. These guys, you look at the turnover on downs that they got. The first thing that I said once I saw how much time we took off the clock, which was only a minute and 20 seconds, I said our defense is gassed. They're not ready to play another series. Not this quick. That's just, and that I know you can, in years past, when you had waves of defensive linemen, when you had the best linebacking core in the NFL, right? Like you can make blunders like that on offense and lean on the defense and say, hey, Nick Bosa, we've shit the bed against Oakland. Go against Las Vegas and the Raiders. Go get us a sack pick. Close it out for us. Hey, we fucked it up against Seattle at home in the playoffs. Hey, we need a defense to turn it on for us because we haven't done shit on offense. Like, even when we were doing the best, it has always been our defense that has bailed us out, never the other way around. And I feel like this year, the tables have turned and this team is not operating in that fashion. They're not helping the defense. So when you see the defense giving up plays in late drives, it's almost inevitable to what we have if you understand how much talent we don't have on that defense versus years past. But when you got Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel sitting there all on the same offense, and you can't muster up 2 minutes of offense when we just got you turnover on downs. We just got you a pick on our side of the field, and the best you can do right now is give us 3. You can't punch it in. These are things that we don't hold the offense to that type of standard. We don't. Right? We just want to see the name score, and us light up the scoreboard. But there's no standard. There's no expectation on the offense where, you know what, with this offense, the fact that we had not scored in opening drives in most of the games that we have this year, nobody thinks that that's a problem. That's an issue.
Well, and last year they were first in the league at that, and
Yeah.
not just to open the game, but to open the second half. That they would score a touchdown on either the first or the second drive of the second half routinely. And part of this is also the poor efficiency in the red zone, that you don't punch it in, and now the defense is playing in a tighter game because you didn't get the touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add Kyle calling too many passes to win the play instead of the game. He's just not aware of what the defense needs. He has to approach it from a head coach and say, the defense needs time so that they can close the game out when Seattle gets the ball back, whenever that is. But I'm going to make sure that Seattle gets the ball back with no timeouts and as little amount of time on the clock left as possible. But Kyle doesn't think that way. He thinks kill shot, not kill clock. And so that contributes to this. Plus, not converting in the red zone so you don't hold the ball as long, and not getting the points that they used to get. So the defense is usually playing in a tighter game. And you're running a wide nine, which is dependent on depth. Part of the reason that Bosa succeeded in past years was you had a Menahu and all
Yep.
these other guys coming off the bench that could really play.
He didn't have a
And now
traditional full slate. He didn't have
all
a
those,
real slate. Yeah.
right, and all those guys are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to this draft and say it was an incredible draft, but you knew coming in that you needed help on the defensive line. You didn't draft anybody, but you doubled down at wide receiver. Why?
Yeah.
And so that's part of this, is that it needs to be viewed holistically. Of what does the team need to win? The team needs the defensive line to have enough depth to win in the fourth quarter when the game's in the line. Right now they don't, and that's why the defense collapses. It's not a function of just the scheme, though I agree with Dale that the defensive scheme is vanilla, but it's also a function of just not having the bodies. That you don't have quality depth of the defensive line rotation. And so Bosa is playing 86% of the snaps when he was normally playing 73. He's not what you want Bosa to be to close out a game. And that's true of the whole team, is that you don't have the depth that they used to have in order to win the game. And that was Kyle's formula. His winning formula was wide nine, pressure the quarterback, dominant offensive players, win on the opening drive, win in the red zone, win in the second half. None of that holds true anymore. And that's why they're losing games.
Agreed, Tom. Let's get a couple of super chats out of the way. So Daniela Lal, $5. Thank you. Green Bay's L, Buff L. Oh, okay. Green Bay L, Buffalo L, Rams L, Chicago, I don't know. Detroit L, Arizona L, cooked. Dog. That's crazy. Dale, $5. Thank you. And I do my little turn on the catwalk. Yeah. On the catwalk. On the catwalk. Yeah, I do my little turn on the catwalk. I'm too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt. Too sexy. Yeah. Like, yo, like every time I see Debo walk, that all I hear is that piano. Doom, 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 doom. I just expect him to start voguing. Dale, $5. Thank you. Coach, the D is vanilla. It's slow and boring, nothing dynamic, and you can't say that's only because of the players available. Yeah, so the scheme, I will admit, the scheme is a little bit old, right? They have to be a little bit more multiple with what they do on defense. But it is a scheme that's built. It's a player's defense where they don't necessarily have to scheme up against you because they're going to win. They put their players in the best positions possible, and as Tom said, the key to a wide nine defense is depth, right? The To have pass rushers that wide continuously going after the quarterback at all times, they're gonna get gassed. You gotta bring in waves of defensive linemen. So right now, I just feel like we're running the wrong defense for the talent that we have right now. How about that?
Yeah, it doesn't mesh up. But I do agree with Dale that the defense is vanilla.
It
The
is.
other problem is that Sorensen is one of the lowest blitz rates in the league, and it makes it too dependent on Bosa to get a pass rush. It's just you can't load it up like that and expect him to hang on. And now here's Bosa and misses the most important game of the year.
Yeah. So, hey, Tom, it's been another one in the books. What do you got going on for the rest of the week, brother?
Writing 2 books plus some articles on the game preview and then the post game. And I'll be checking you out and see if you're gonna give us another Mount Vesuvius blowout.
Dog, what's the matter with me, man?
I love
Yo,
that stuff. I
my
love
mom
that.
called me. She said, "Baby, are
Oh,
you
she would.
okay?
You okay?
Are you okay? You upset? You were really upset." I said, "Mom, it's just ridiculous. I love you. I'll talk to you later."
I loved it. It was
Hey,
so
man,
great.
tomorrow, 12 o'clock noon Eastern, which will be 9 a.m. Pacific, is the coaches meeting with me and Grant Cohn. I'm going to be hosting it on the coaches huddle. Guys, do not miss it. That's going to be a good one. And then after the show, you thought you got away? You thought you got away? You ain't get away. We going to have the call-in show anyway. Right after the coaches meeting, the call-in show, because I want to hear from the fans. I want to hear from the supporters of the channel. Come in here and holler at me. You know that's one of my favorite shows of the week, and we will get at you. This is the coach with my man Tom Jensen, my man 10 grand. Stay low and keep your feet moving, guys. Talk to you.